This November 1st NBA Player Props edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/SGPN and use code SGPN for a first deposit match up to $100. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform from parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Plus, the MMA Gambling Podcast just launched their YouTube channel. To celebrate, we're giving away a MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie for all the details. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Wednesday, November the 1st, currently 12:38 on the East Coast. Here to get into our player props for the Wednesday night schedule. And joining me here, I got my guy here with me, of course, on the Propcast, not only for the NBA, but of course, also for the NFL. It's my guy, Chris B. Cabin. Chris, what's going on, my man? How you doing this Wednesday?
What's up? It's a busy time of the year, man. So we rocking and rolling, sleeping less, watching more sports, got more TVs on throughout the house, but I'm not complaining, If I've waited for times like this. I love it, man. It's getting colder outside. The leaves are falling. The bets are being placed. And it's fun, man. It's really, really fun. So excited to be here. And we got a big slate. So ready to jump into it with you for sure.
Yeah, big schedule for the NBA here on Wednesday, as it usually is. Speaking of getting cold, yeah, it's getting cold down here in Texas. It's like around 40 to 45 degrees, something we're not used to. So the 2 weeks of the winter that we do get here, it's this week, and then we'll get like 1 week in December. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Sports, the equinox happened, I believe it was on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. We had all four major sports going on between hockey, the NFL, NBA, and the MLB. So yeah, like you mentioned, busy times, screens are on. We're diving deep into these games, trying to find some winners for our listeners. So hopefully we can do that on this episode, at least for the NBA Propcast. So Chris, about each game or each team has about 3 to 4 games under their belt, and we've seen some guys that have stood out that maybe we possibly didn't think would stand out. Just a couple guys that I want to discuss. I don't know if you have any guys that you have wanted to talk about here as well, but I think we saw shades of this guy last season where the Brooklyn Nets decided to give him some minutes, and that's been Cam Thomas for the Brooklyn Nets. 30 points a minimum in all 3 games thus far this season for the Brooklyn Nets. He's starting to get more minutes as well. Definitely a offensive spark that they do need, a guy that can just absolutely fill up the basketball. There's no question about that, but I think he is either second or third leading scorer right now in the association. I know, again, it's very, very early on, but it looks like Cam Thomas is here to stay for the Brooklyn Nets and just be that scoring spark that they really do need, because I mean, this team really doesn't have that, I guess, consistent score. I mean, I know it's a lot of role players. Talk about like Mikal Bridges of the world, Cam Johnson's when healthy. He's a spot-up shooter. Ben Simmons, she not score, but he's been filling up the stat sheet with the rebounds and assists thus far this season. So, I mean, if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, I guess you're excited about Cam Thomas and what he's able to do. I think I would just wanted him to see it do it more efficiently, and I think he's been doing that thus far this season for the Brooklyn Nets here. Chris, any thoughts on Cam Thomas?
I mean, how could we not talk about Cam Thomas? If I was looking into doing props for today's show, and went through and I was just looking at Brooklyn's usage rate, and Cam Thomas actually has higher usage rate right now than Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis, and a bunch of names on this list: Julius Randle, Tyrese Halliburton, DeJounte Murray. Like, this dude, Karl Anthony Towns. This dude is out there. He's confident. He's letting that thing fly. The books gave us a tad bit of a discount, opening night when he opened up at 14.5. And they said, you know what? We're not letting people take all our money this year. Game 2 was all the way up to 24.5. Like, wow. And he still finished with 30. So yeah, man, I don't think it'll stay, when you think about his lack of effort on the defensive end. I do think that, Coach Vaughn wants to have a, better defensive lineup out there. But when you're missing in the services of Cam Johnson, which is primarily why he's out there, it makes perfect sense. I think Mikal Bridges will, pick up his usage as well and start to score the ball just a tad bit more. But right now, let the guy ride, man. Shout out to Coach Vaughn for just giving him the opportunity. He's definitely marveling in, what he's been able to do. And like you said, doing it efficiently as well. So, Cam Thomas has made people money. Absolutely so far.
Yeah, and I think on the same team, the prop that I've cashed in all three of their first games, Ben Simmons, he's been filling it up for a rebound and assist as well. The book's adjusted to, I think opening night it was at 12.5. I think now I want to say it's up to 17.5 is what I checked this morning for Ben Simmons. But I think he's been in double-digit rebounds in all three games for the Brooklyn Nets as well. He's getting the assist for them as well. So I would like to see an uptick in minutes for him because this is a guy that that's if you're betting the double doubles, you're just getting burned by the hook on the assist thus far this season for him. But Ben Simmons looks really good as well. I think another rookie that I think would be remiss not to mention for the Detroit Pistons, the Thompson twin, Asur. He's been really good, man. I mean, rebounding the basketball defensively, he looks really good for this Pistons team. And traditionally, we've seen the Pistons not really been a great defensive team, but he's bringing that presence. He's a great on-ball defender. He can rebound the basketball. Kind of a breath of fresh air for that Detroit Pistons team thus far this season. I know they have offensive guys with guys like Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and the front court is loaded as well with Jalen Duren, another guy on this team that has been an absolute monster on the boards. I know he's dealing with a injury, may not be able to play here tonight, but he's been an absolute monster on the boards. I say a Stewart as well. So if you're a Pistons fan, man, I think you're definitely excited about what this team is definitely capable of doing, not on the offensive side, but definitely on the defense side of the basketball, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta think that when Coach Monty Williams got fired last year after not being able to get the Suns past the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs, and he took this new lead role, replacing Coach Dwayne Casey. That you just kind of felt like they were heading in the right direction. Not any knock towards Dwayne Casey, but we know how good Monty can be, and how he can inspire his players to just take that next level. And I think we marvel in what Detroit's been able to do so far, but a lot of it has been Cade returning. And then you just think about, like you said, Asur Thompson. This dude is cashing in a lot of different ways. If I don't want to throw shade on him because he is scoring the ball, he is rebounding the ball, his blocks have been there, but also his turnovers. They've come out at 2.5, and he has 3 in 2 games and 2 in the other 2 games. So definitely a lot of different ways to make money. He seems a little sped up in the game, when he has the ball in his hands. But offensively, rebounding the ball, just being assertive. Like, he's very aggressive to be so young. You gotta love it, especially if you're a Detroit Pistons fan.
Yeah. I mean, 100% agree. Again, there's a lot of talent on that Detroit Pistons team. Anybody that stood out to you, Chris, at least over the first couple games here?
I think, I mean, it's not going to surprise people a lot, but Luka,
yeah,
because I was kind of low on Dallas this year, and Luka's picked right back up where he left off. He struggled in the Abu Dhabi, the games that they played abroad because he was dealing with an ankle injury, and I thought that would kind of linger just a tad bit. He said, no, it won't. No, I'll go get 50. And, just continue to put this team on my back. Kyrie, good. No Kyrie, good. So, just what Luka's been able to do has been absolutely amazing so far this season, just kind of carrying that team. I think he's probably going to be one of the favorites, in clutch player of the year, because the way I see Dallas, they still going to struggle defensively. So it's going to be a lot of overtype games. And that just means Luka's going to have the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter with less than 5 minutes left. So, I think, potentially looking at Luka, I want to say it was plus 1,000 last time I checked for clutch player of the year, but Luka could definitely be in that conversation.
Yeah, I think that for Luka, he's second favorite right now, like on the heels of Nikola Jokic for MVP. 3 games into the season at 4-1 is Nikola Jokic, and then Luka is at plus 425. I'm trying to find the clutch player of the year award odds. Luka's 9-1 in that category. Dame is at plus 850. So, I think that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Like you mentioned, he played in the FIBA World Cup, played well there. They were in Abu Dhabi to play some exhibition games there as well. So he's coming to shape this season. I think, like, traditionally we've seen Luka get off to slow starts at the beginning of the season, because maybe he's coming a little heavier, or maybe he hasn't been in the game shape. But this season, it's been the complete opposite story for Luka, and he looks really, really good thus far this season for the Dallas Mavericks. Unfortunately, there's been, I think, 2 games where they could have easily lost, but they came from behind and won those games, led by Luka, like you mentioned. So, yeah, definitely exciting to see Luka playing really, really well, as usual, for the Dallas Mavericks, especially early on in the season. All right, Chris, before we do get into our player props for this Wednesday night schedule, let me tell everyone about Prize Picks. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, you want to get on LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions for Travis Kelce. Well, you can do that over on Prize Picks. If you want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app for Prize Picks to view entries from some of the biggest names in Prize Picks community each week. That's really exciting. Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For example, for football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com and make sure you use that promo code SGPN. Go to prizepicks.com/SGPN and use code SGPN for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com using promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by the MMA Gambling Podcast Contest. The MMA Gambling Podcast just launched their YouTube channel. In honor, we're giving away a MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie to one lucky winner. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie to submit your entry today, and make sure to subscribe to the MMA Gambling Podcast on YouTube. All right, Chris, let's get into our player props here for the Wednesday night schedule in the association. Why don't you lead us off, my man?
So I got a sneaky one. We're going to we're going up north to actually going to a different country. We're going to Toronto. Well, actually, no, we're not. We're going to Detroit. I'm looking at the target in the game between the Pistons and the Portland Trailblazers, and this might be a sneaky one. Brogdon has been excellent. I haven't really been paying attention to watching this team, but I've been watching the highlights, going back, looking at different things. Brogdon over 17.5 points, plus 105. Just a few hours before we did the show over on BetMGM. Like I said, this dude's been excellent. He has games of 21, 18, 18, and 20. So he's 4 for 4 to the over on this prop. And what I like most is that the shot attempts are there. 15 shot attempts in every game, and he's averaging 17. He feels like the best kept secret because we know that this was supposed to be Scoot's team. And we also know that Jeremy Grant got paid enough to, feed a whole country for a large amount of time. although I didn't expect great things from him. And they also have Ayton as well. So to me, it kind of felt like Brogdon wasn't going to have this big of a role. Maybe he's, maybe they're showcasing him because they're going to end up trading him, right? We don't know what's going to happen with him, but because they are in the rebuild phase. But Brogdon's been really good. 29.4% usage rate, which is the highest on the team. And this dude's coming off the bench. So give me Brogdon to go over 17.5. I know Detroit has been really good defensively. I think that they slow down Ayton because they've done a really good job on, opposing big men. And I'm not looking at too many guys outside of, Brogdon to be able to score the ball. We also know that they're without Anthony Simons. So that's even more pressure on Brogdon to be able to continue to score the ball. So I love this number for Brogdon at 18.5. I'll probably play him up to 20 in this game.
I had this one as well. This was the first player I wrote down on my list just because what you mentioned there, that Anthony Simons, when he did go down in the injury, I was like, who is going to step up for this team? And I looked at Malcolm Brogdon. I think it was that first game where he played 25 plus minutes for this Portland Trailblazers team. He played 23, and then the last 3 games he's playing 31, 26, and 29. And like you mentioned, he's also getting the field goal attempts. Coming off of the bench last game against the Toronto Raptors, he had 21 field goal attempts. He's also getting the 3-point attempts as well, averaging 17 shot attempts per game, and like you mentioned, averaging 19.3 points per game as well for the Portland Trailblazers. So I liked it. I think I got this number at 16 and a half, a little bit of juice at minus 125. If you want to pair that with his assist, do a player combo of points plus assist for Malcolm Brogdon. I'm trying to find that number right now. That is sitting at 21 and a half. He's also averaging, let's see here, I want to say it was 5 assists per game as well, 4 assists per game. 3 out of 4 games, he's at least 5 assists. One game, he only had 1 assist, which was against the Orlando Magic. But yeah, I'm gonna 100% agree with you here. I love the points prop here for Malcolm Brogdon as well. I think there's a note also that came across that he did sign with Clutch Sports, so maybe we'll see him end up in a Lakers uniform for maybe when it comes to the trade deadline. Definitely an upgrade over Malcolm Brogdon. All right, so agreement on the first one there. Chris, let's go over to player prop number 2, man. What do you got?
All right, so let's go now. Let's actually go up north. I like the Toronto Raptors will be taking on the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. It'll be the Bucks' first road game. Bucks and the Raptors are coming off a stinker. They actually just lost as a 8.5 point favorite to give the Blazers their first win. Yeah, to give the Blazers their first win. So I like in this spot, I like Schroeder. I like Schroeder a lot in this spot. His assists are juiced at 6.5. Best number I found was minus 140 on Barstool. But I think you alt this, right? I think you can take him at 8 assists if you can get it on the book. Honestly, I think I'm gonna put a tad bit, maybe a 10th of a unit, maybe a 15th of a unit on his 10 assists as well. Schroeder's just been the man. Like I didn't know that there was like a pre-existing relationship between him and the coach that's there. And we know Schroeder to be, backup point guard. He split minutes last year, of course, with D'Angelo Russell. But this season, in the 34 minutes that he's averaging a game, 8 assists, 10 assists, 10 assists, 7 assists. And I also think if you just go back and check out who those opponents were, those are all slow-paced teams, So I think the Bucks will play a lot faster, of course. We know they like to get out and run as much as they possibly can. And, I think this is an easy one if Schroeder's going to get, 34, 35 minutes. We also know that the Bucks aren't the greatest defensive team. So I really like Schroeder a lot today. The base number, like I said, is 6.5 minus 140. But I wouldn't put a full unit on this one. I would go lighter and then just kind of, divide the units up and definitely sprinkle on the 8 and plus in the 10 as well.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, right? Ever since FVV left this team for my Houston Rockets, Schroeder has came in and filled in very nicely at that point guard position and averaging 8.8 assists per game thus far. And the minutes are there as well. When we talk about backing overs, you want to make sure that you're getting the minutes played for these teams. Obviously, we can't predict blowouts because that's where props go to die when you're betting on overs. But he's averaging close to 34 minutes per game thus far this season for the Toronto Raptors. So yeah, definitely will be behind this. And also, he's not a guy that turns over the ball over a lot either. 8.8 assists per game. He's only averaging 1.5 turnovers per game as well, and never in foul trouble either. He's only had 1 personal foul in each of the 4 games that he has played in this season for the Toronto Raptors. All right, for my next player prop, I'm going to go over to that game between the Washington Wizards and the Atlanta Hawks. I'm looking at DeAndre Hunter in this game. I'm looking at his over 15.5 points. So thus far this season, he's averaging 16.8 points per game. And this is the game tonight that has the highest total on board. It's not even close. And I think it's, again, number one, we talk about how bad this Wizards defense is this season. I know you and I were talking about that offline, but also DeAndre Hunter. I know he's not getting the shot attempts, but he's very efficient from the floor. He's averaging 10.5 attempts per game. But about 50% of his shots are coming from the 3-point line. Now you take a look at this Wizards team that is the worst defending team against that 3 ball. I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers here, but I know they're giving up, let's see here, 19.5 3-point shots made per game to the opposition through the first, 3 games that they have played this season. Yeah, so 19.3 points, 19.3 3-pointers made per game they're allowing. They're also giving up the attempts as well. Teams are chunking it up. So just to put this in context here, Chris, the Wizards are allowing opponents to jack up 47.7 threes per game, the second worst team in allowing attempts. is the Memphis Grizzlies at 40.5. So they're giving up almost 7 or at 7.2 more attempts from 3-point land are the Wizards defense. And they're also allowing opponents to shoot 40.6%. So when I talk about DeAndre Hunter, like I mentioned, 50% of his shot attempts are coming from the 3-point line. So if you want to either take his his 3-point prop as well, I don't hate that. That number is at, let me see here. That's at at 1.5 minus 130. But I think that, again, with DeAndre Hunter, he's a guy that can also knock down that mid-range jump shot as well. So I think a lot of the focus, this should be, I don't know if it will be, on Trae Young tonight and DeJounte Murray. I think that opens up opportunities for guys like DeAndre Hunter. And I think, again, the pace will be up in this game as well. Defense is a huge question mark for this Wizards team. So DeAndre Hunter over 15.5 points for me here, Chris.
Yeah. If I couldn't talk you off of anybody on this on the Atlanta Hawks to potentially go over their points prop against this defense. You mentioned how bad it was, but the one thing you didn't mention, was you talked about the 3-point attempts. The 3-point makes, they're allowing teams to make 19.3, like you said. Yeah. The next on the list is not even 17. So the Grizzlies defense is bad, but it's not this is a really, really poor defense. And we're also talking about Daniel Gafford not being there, which is less rim protection. They don't have guards that can really defend outside of Bilal. And he's coming off the bench, of course. So what that does is your point guard breaks the defense down. They get inside the paint. We know Trae Young and DeJounte Murray are willing passers. They just kick it out. Sadiq Bey, Bogdanovich, Hunter. So this is a no-brainer for me. I like it a lot.
All right, before we get into our next round of player props here, let me tell everyone about Hall of Fame bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame bets, a sports betting analytics platform for player props, parlays, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with Circle stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. And NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at an even bigger basketball wins. String together multiple bets for the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Basketball is more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code SGP. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SGP. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-08-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resorts, Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 20 years or older. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/. Basketball terms for eligibility and deposit restriction terms and responsible gaming resources. All right, Chris, let's get into our third round of player props here, my man. What do we got?
All right, so we are going to go. Let's stay. As a matter of fact, let's stay in the same game. I like you talking about Atlanta. You talking about Washington. I talked about Daniel Gafford popping up on the injury. Well, not popping up on the injury report. He missed the last game, and we talked offline about how bad that defensive rating is, even with him on the floor. But it gets worse without him on the floor. And a lot of it is because they lack rebounding, right? So
rattle the numbers, Chris. You have the numbers. Rattle the numbers.
So it's 115 with the defensive rating was a 115, which is terrible with Gafford on the floor this season. Without Gafford on the floor, because he missed the last game, it was 120. So, it pretty much can't get any worse. For that reason, you look at, Jordan Poole chucking up shots and some of those other guys, they just don't have a lot of talented guys as far as being able to score the ball outside of Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. Granted, Tyus Jones is a really great point guard and can find others, but they got to actually be able to make the shot. So I say all that to say I like Clint Capela in the bounce back spot. His double-double, Munaf, is plus 110 on FanDuel. I was shopping around for this. I saw minus 115. I'm like, let me see if I can find that better. So Clint Capela actually has 3 double-doubles. He started the season off with 3 double-doubles in a row before he missed one last game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, which we know they're a much bigger defensive team. You got Rudy Gobert down there. You got Anthony Edwards, who can rebound the ball really well. Karl-Anthony Towns is an okay rebounder. Nas Reed and those guys. So he didn't get it last game, but he has at least 12 rebounds in 3 of the 4 games outside of the game that he missed it in. And he attempted at least 10 shot attempts as well. We already talked about, the Atlanta guards being able to get in the paint and kind of break down the defense. Couple lobs to Capela, couple offensive rebounds, putbacks. So I like this spot as well. You look at Washington, they're allowing the 7th most rebounds to the center position, and they're allowing the 6th most rebounds overall. They gave up one to Zaire Williams on had a double-double on Saturday versus this defense. So give me Clint Capela. I love that I can get it at plus money, so I took Clint Capela double-double at plus 110 on FanDuel.
I think it was I want to say his first or second season with the Atlanta Hawks where he was just an automatic double-doubles machine. I know last season that fell off because, whatever was going on with the Atlanta Hawks with their front court and trying to figure out who's, going to be getting the bulk of the minutes there because there was a log jam there, right? They drafted a Onyeka Okongwu, I think 2 seasons ago. You had John Collins in the mix there as well and trying to find a role for Clint Capela as well, but it just wasn't happening for them at that point. But I think that Clint Capela, like you mentioned, is back to being the Clint Capela that we've seen, that getting those automatic, double-doubles, at least the rebounding part of it. And you mentioned, right, they have guys like, obviously, DeJounte Murray, Trae Young that can throw up the lobs to Clint Capela. Capela is also a guy that can get those offensive rebounds for you as well and have the putback layups or dunks. Because if you go back to the first 2 games of this regular season, 6 of his 13 rebounds were offensive rebounds for Clint Capela. And you mentioned, I think you nailed it when you talked about the Minnesota Timberwolves, that you had Rudy Gobert among the tall trees to contend with for Capela, throwing Karl-Anthony Towns there as well. So I think this is a game, at least if, Daniel Gafford looks like he is going to be missing this game, that Clint Capela should have success on the rebounds. I think the points will be there for him as well. And again, taking the game away from the last game against Atlanta, he's getting double-digit shot attempts as well. So it's not like he's not really heavily involved in the offense, but when you're talking about a guy like Clint Capela on this Hawks team that's getting at least 10 attempts in the first 3 games of the regular season, I think that kind of speaks volumes. So I love that you're able to find that at plus money. May not be there much longer if he continues to, get these double-doubles. But yeah, that again, this is why it's a great reminder. You definitely got to shop around and find those best numbers, especially if you're getting on double-double props, because one book may have it at a minus price, and the other ones you get at plus odds here, like we found with Clint Capela. So 100% agree on this one. All right, for my next player prop, I'm going to go over to probably the worst game on the schedule. That's going to involve my Houston Rockets and the Charlotte Hornets. I think it's something that I've been betting against on Charlotte Hornets, is betting on the opposing centers for those centers that are going up against the Charlotte Hornets. I think that theme has also continued this season for the Charlotte Hornets. So I'm looking at my guy, Shanegoon. I'm looking at his rebounds and assists to go over the number of 15.5 right now, currently over on DraftKings. It's at minus 105 when I saw it earlier. I think it's up to minus 110 now. But start here with Shanegoon. Rebounding wise, he's averaging 9 rebounds per game, 6.7 assists per game as well. But he's gone over this projection, I know, in just one game, which was against the San Antonio Spurs. But like I mentioned, this is more of a fade for me about the Charlotte Hornets front court. And I know they have Mark Williams here now, who I'm really high on this season. But you take a look, Isaiah Stewart this season, 7 rebounds he grabbed, and that's contending with Jalen Duren, we talked about on the NBA pod, who's been an absolute monster. 17 rebounds for Jalen Duren alone in that game. We just talked about Clint Capela, who had 13 rebounds against the Charlotte Hornets. And I think it's also a theme, something similar to the Spurs, what Shanegoon was able to do against that team. I think that the Hornets are in that similar situation, like the Spurs, not really having that traditional big man. Again, I know I mentioned Mark Williams, but I think there's an opportunity for Shanegoon to really have a big night on the boards. And you also take a look at the assist that Shanegoon has been able to get for the Houston Rockets. Trying to find his game log here real quick. Yeah, so all 3 games thus far this season for the Rockies, he's had at least 6 assists, and then the last 2 games he's had 7 assists each, which was against the Spurs and then against the Golden State Warriors. He's also getting the minutes, averaging about 34 minutes per game. And like I mentioned, the rebounds are going to be there for him as well against his Hornets team. So, Chris, I took my guy, Alperen Sengun, over 15.5 rebounds and assists combined.
Yeah, that number seems really low. I'm actually, I don't think it'd be a bad look to throw his points in there as well. He's scoring the ball pretty well. I'm not sure what that number is right now, but you mentioned it. The key words to me was Charlotte Hornets defense against big men, right? Like this has been really, really bad for people that's been paying attention. And like you said, I love Mark Williams. I think he's elite defender. I'm not sure if maybe I need to just tap in this a tad bit more to Charlotte games. I feel like maybe the guards are getting beat off the dribble when you got LaMelo and Terry Rozier out there trying to guard people, and then he ends up in a bad spot maybe because he does feel like a solid rim protector, guy that can block some shots and get some rebounds. But all that being said, Charlotte is allowing the most points to centers in the league, 26.93. And also, you just look at where they are in rebounds to centers. They're also allowing the 4th most rebounds to centers, 17.21 per game between centers combined that they're playing on a nightly basis. So no way I could talk you over this one. I think Sengun points, rebounds, and assists can probably cash, but you probably can play this however you want to, and she'd be able to get some cash with Sengun for sure.
I did see on DraftKings PRA for Shanegoon's at 31.5, but it's at minus 145 right now. So maybe if you're able to find a 32.5, pay a little bit less vig on that player prop. All right, so that was 3 each. You have any more you want to throw out before we get up to best bets here, Chris?
I know I talked about him already, and probably just a small sprinkle. Dennis Schroeder, double. If I talked about the 10 assists, the double is plus 475. He already has 2 double-doubles on the season so far. You look at this Bucks team, I talked about it just a tad bit. They're allowing the 4th most assists to point guards so far this season. And, it makes sense. You got Damian Lillard out there trying to play defense, and you got Malik Beasley, who I'm not even sure is a starting shooting guard in this league, out there also trying to play defense. So I do expect a big game from Schroeder today. I know that they're dogs at the crib, and I know that they didn't win the last game. They got upset. So if he can, if those guys, the OG Anunobis and the Scotty Barnes of the worlds and the Pascal Siakams can knock down some shots, I do think that his double at plus 425 is pretty good odds, before I get into best bet.
Yeah, I agree, man. Again, I think it'll be interesting to see which team dictates the pace here, because we've seen the Bucks traditionally like to play at a higher pace, and also with Dame there as well, of course, obviously. But Toronto traditionally has been, under at least Nick Nurse, not a team that like to push the pace a lot, get into their half court offense and sets that way. But we already talked about Dennis Schroeder at volumes about the opportunities that he's going to have with this Toronto Raptors team. So at plus 475, where he's been on the cusp of getting those double doubles. Again, this is the time where we got to attack these markets for the NBA, because the books are really paying attention to college football, NFL, obviously. So I think this is a time we got to pounce on it. And again, like you mentioned, 2 of the 4 games thus far this season already double doubles for Dennis Schroeder. All right, Chris, let's wrap it up strong here with our best bets for this Wednesday night schedule. You want to lead us off with your best bet?
Let's do it. So we're going back to, matter of fact, we stand in that same game. So Bucks game, I like it a lot. I think there's a lot of value there. I'm looking at Giannis over his rebound prop. 11.5 is the number. This number, so Giannis is crazy to think that he's only averaging 10 rebounds this season so far. But this kind of feels like a big breakout rebound type game for Giannis. You mentioned pace. I do think that Toronto would kind of dictate the pace in this game. They've dictated a lot of paces that they've played in so far, and just walking the ball up the floor. We know that they play at a snail's pace. And that's probably what's going to keep them in this game. If you look at the offensive firepower on both sides, and it doesn't really stack up at all. So I do expect Toronto to try to play a slow brand of basketball, which probably will lead to a bunch of missed shots. We know that Toronto is not scoring the ball really well at all, so I do expect them to miss a bunch of shots.
Yeah.
The Raptors, they're actually allowing 52 rebounds per game, which is the second most in the league. And in the past few games, Aiden just snagged 23. In the last game, Vucevic had 12. Gobert had a game. Let's say the Timberwolves had a game where Rudy Gobert had 13, Karl-Anthony Towns had 10, and Anthony Edwards had 14, all in the same game. Yeah. And Embiid, in limited minutes, because he didn't play the fourth quarter in that last game, had 9 as well. So this number feels absolutely obtainable for Giannis Antetokounmpo. We've seen him have 15, 16 rebounds, and I think this could be a spot where Giannis gets on the glass and really cleans it up. So give me Giannis over his 11.5 rebounds. The best number I found was minus 120, so it is a little bit juice. I think you could also wait for this one to hit 12.5 and also take it at plus money as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to talk me off of a rebounding prop against the Raptors, and I'm not going to talk you off of one either, because I think this was on Ski Show when, like you mentioned, when the Blazers played the Raptors. We talked about DeAndre Ayton over on his rebounding prop. That was at 9.5, and like you mentioned, he finished with 23 in the game. So I don't think this game will turn into a blowout. The Bucks are currently a 5-point favorite right now in this game, but again, you just take a look since the 2018 season for Giannis. He's averaging 13.2 rebounds per game against the Raptors. Last season, I believe in 2 games that he played against the Raptors, he put up a triple-double in those games, including rebounds of 21 and 12. So I think it's another opportunity for him to get those rebounds. And again, for the Bucks, I know they do have Brook Lopez, but Lopez really not a traditional great rebounder. Ever since he's came over to the Bucks, it's really been Giannis that's been the guy, rebounding the basketball for this team. So yeah, I love this from you as well. I'm also going to go over to a rebounding prop. I'm going to go over to that game between the Kings and the Warriors, and I'm looking at Sabonis, man, to get on the boards here against the Warriors. His number's at 12.5 in this game, and I don't think the Kings are going to win this game by any stretch, but he's had a lot of success rebounding the basketball against the Warriors. So since he's joined the Kings has Domantas Sabonis against the Golden State Warriors. I'll just read this off. So 14 rebounds, 22 rebounds, and then last game earlier, I think this week, he had 18 rebounds in that game against the Warriors. So I know that De'Aaron Fox is going to be missing this game, but I think the pace will still be higher in this game. I think Malik Monk will fill that role really nicely. I know Davion Mitchell will be involved as well. But when we talk about boards for Domantas Sabonis, averaging 15.8 per game in the last 5 games against the Warriors, and in the Kings uniform alone, like I mentioned, he's gone over this number in all 4 games since the 2022 season. Last year, 3 games last season against the Warriors. 14 rebounds, 22. And then, like I mentioned earlier this week, in that game between the Kings and the Warriors, he had 18 rebounds in that game. So I like Sabonis to clean up the boards again here. That number's at 12.5. That'll be my best bet. So a couple of rebounding props here for myself and Chris as far as our best bets here. So Chris' best bet, Giannis over 11.5 rebounds. I'm taking Sabonis over 12.5 rebounds here tonight against the Golden State Warriors. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Propcast for the NBA. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I know UCapper, our guy, UCapper joined us. Casey's in there as well. Appreciate y'all joining us. A lot of fun chopping it up about the NBA and props and sides, toads, and all that good stuff with all of our friends of the network and, of course, ours as well. Chris, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here, my friend?
Nah, man, just find your spots because it's a lot to love tonight. A lot of stuff to love tonight. So definitely find your spots. Play everything. Gamble responsibly, of course, and check me out on Twitter or X at Crispy Cap and 2 P's 2 N's. I do a daily show as well, 5 p.m. Eastern time, where myself and just the community, the gambling space in the world, just kind of come together and kind of shares best bets as well. So. Definitely, check that out if you guys are interested in that and available. But yeah, that's all I got. Best of luck to everybody tonight, and let's get some cash, man.
Yeah, 5 p.m. Eastern every day with Chris. He goes through the card, gives his best bets, and like you mentioned, a lot of contributors that come in and share their bets as well. So make sure to follow Chris on X/Twitter at Crispy Cap, and that's 2 P's and 2 N's. You can follow me on X, that's at SportsNerd824. More importantly, make sure to subscribe here to the NBA Gambling Podcast feed. We'll do our Propcast shows live here on the YouTube channel for the NBA Gambling Podcast, and hit that like button for us as well before you guys get out of here. And as well, like I mentioned, subscribe to the NBA Gambling Podcast feed. All right, we'll be back on Friday for the NBA Propcast. Myself, Chris, and Rod are going to be doing the Thursday Night Football Propcast later on, actually in a couple hours here. So stay tuned for that. That'll be live on the NFL Gambling Podcast feed. And also you can check our Twitters as well. Usually do our best to retweet. But also join us in that conversation as well. All right. Good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.